Imagine lying perfectly still in -30-degree cold, your breath controlled to the slowest, shallowest rhythm your body can manage, while an enemy patrol moves within 20 meters of your position. You are invisible. Not because of technology, not because of some sophisticated military hardware, but because of a loose-woven sheet of white cotton and the ancient human instinct to disappear into the landscape. This is the story of the Soviet sniper and the deceptively simple fieldcraft that made them among the most feared fighters in the history of modern warfare. The masculine simplicity as a weapon. The garment at the heart of this story is the maskala, a word that translates roughly as masking suit, and that description alone tells you everything about Soviet military philosophy. Where other armies invested in rigid uniform standards and complex equipment, the Red Army understood something fundamental. Concealment is not about what you wear, it is about how completely you can erase your presence from the environment around you. The mascalat was made from lightweight, loose-weave cotton, breathable, fast-drying, and critically, non-reflective even under harsh winter light. Worn as an overgarment directly over the standard uniform and padded layers beneath, it draped loosely over the body, breaking the rigid human silhouette into something formless and organic. In summer and woodland conditions, snipers wore reversible versions printed with the now legendary amoeba pattern, large irregular blotches of brown and dark green against a pale khaki background that mimicked the dappled chaos of forest undergrowth with remarkable accuracy. When winter arrived and the Russian landscape turned to a blinding white expanse, the sniper simply reversed the garment and vanished again. Warmth from the inside out. The mascalat itself provided almost no insulation, and that was entirely intentional. The system worked in layers. Beneath the cotton shell sat the telegreca, the quilted, padded jacket that has become one of the most iconic garments of the Eastern Front. Stuffed with raw cotton wadding and stitched into a grid of tight, quilted channels, the telegreca trapped body heat with remarkable efficiency, remaining functional even when damp, a quality that separated it from wool or fur-based alternatives that could become dangerously heavy when wet. Beneath that, wool undergarments formed the final insulating barrier against the skin, wicking moisture outward while retaining warmth inward. What the Red Army had engineered, largely out of necessity and centuries of hard-won Russian winter survival knowledge, was a layered system that modern cold-weather outdoor enthusiasts would immediately recognize. Base layer, insulating mid-layer, and a loose, breathable, camouflaged shell. The Soviet sniper was, in the most practical sense, a highly trained bushcrafter deployed in the world's most unforgiving environment. Fieldcraft, patience, and the art of disappearing. The suit, however, was only ever a starting point. Soviet sniper doctrine was explicit and demanding on this point. The garment gave you the foundation, but fieldcraft gave you invisibility. Snipers were trained to weave local vegetation, pine branches, dried grass, strips of bark, directly into the loose weave of the mascalat, customizing their concealment to the precise terrain of their firing position. They studied light angles and shadow lines, always positioning themselves so the sun would not catch any surface of their body or equipment. They moved only when wind moved the surrounding vegetation, using the environment as cover for the sound and motion of their own adjustments. They also controlled the one thing that betrays almost every concealed position in winter conditions: breath. In extreme cold, exhaled breath rises as a visible vapor cloud, a white flag of presence against a still landscape. Soviet snipers trained themselves to breathe through wool or cloth, dispersing the moisture before it could form a visible plume. This level of discipline, applied consistently over hours of motionless waiting in sub-zero temperatures, represents a standard of physical and mental resilience that is almost incomprehensible from the comfort of the modern world. Lessons that outlive the war. What the Soviet sniper's kit teaches us reaches far beyond military history. It is a masterclass in the principle that effectiveness rarely comes from complexity. A sheet of loose-woven cotton, a quilted jacket, a pair of felt boots, and an intimate, studied understanding of the natural environment. These were the tools that made soldiers effectively disappear from one of history's most brutal battlefields. The layering principle, the use of local materials for personal camouflage, the discipline of controlled movement and breath. Every one of these techniques translates directly into the modern world of bushcraft, wilderness survival, and serious outdoor preparedness. The Soviet sniper did not wait for better equipment. They mastered what they had, adapted it to what surrounded them, and turned patience and knowledge into a tactical advantage that their enemies feared deeply. That is the oldest and most transferable lesson Fieldcraft has ever offered. The environment is not your obstacle. It is your greatest resource, if you are willing to learn its language. If this episode changed the way you think about camouflage, cold weather survival, or the ingenuity of wartime fieldcraft, then Fieldcraft Chronicles is exactly where you belong. Subscribe now so you never miss an episode, and share this video with someone who values history, self-reliance, and the timeless art of survival. Every share helps keep this kind of deep, story-driven history alive.